You eat clean, you walk 10,000 steps every day, you're skipping dessert, but your body still isn't changing. You might even find that you probably binge after 2 to 3 days after eating clean. You're not crazy, you're probably just following the wrong advice. After you watch this video, you'll probably get a lot better clarity of the changes that you need to make into your routine. That is also why you're going to subscribe, because my job is to help you stop wasting time on things that just don't work, and maybe even teach you how to enjoy food again without feeling guilty or feeling like you can't have it if you're trying to lose weight. So how I plan on going about this is I'm going to tell you all the common mistakes I see and the solutions to all of them at the end. If you were to Google define eating healthy, this is what would pop up. Consuming a variety of nutrient-rich foods that support overall well-being and provide the body with essential nutrients it needs. This involves choosing foods from all the food groups of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, and limiting processed foods or added sugars or unhealthy fats. Now, this is where I feel like people are messing it up. They're getting a little bit confused and mixed up, especially when they see the word processed. Because now if we go under the definition of defined processed food, it is foods that have undergone some form of alteration from their natural state. Can you name any food that is not processed? Literally everything is processed, but the difference is that there are minimal processed foods and then highly processed foods. To help you understand this concept so that way you can make these changes into your foods, I want you to think about this analogy. We are women, we love skincare. Think about minimal processed foods as a very minimal skincare routine. This is things like your general cleanser, moisturizer, and SPF. It's straightforward, it's nourishing, it's pretty much what most women need. Now think of highly processed food. These are things that we get caught up when we see on the shelves. It promises this glow, all these fixes. They may not be as nourishing or beneficial to your skin because, let's be real, maybe a toner or a hydrator has the same ingredients as your moisturizer already, but because we've been advertised that like you absolutely need this, it's going to make your skin so glowy. An influencer said that it was life-changing and she was obsessed. But when you come back to the regular gist of it, you'll find that the minimally processed foods was all you really needed. You just needed your moisturizer. You just needed your cleanser. And you only needed an SPF to protect your skin from the sun. So it's the same idea when it comes to eating healthy. The main nutrients that you need, the minimum, are your protein, fats, carbs, and your other nutrients and minerals. You can find all of those things in things like the meats that we already eat. You can find it in fruits and vegetables. The reason why these are considered minimally processed is because they don't have a very high shelf life. The things that have high shelf lives are things like Oreos, cookies, and you know that they have a high shelf life because you can find it sitting on your counter in your home, and you find that if you don't touch it, if it's even in the heat because it's getting a little bit warmer now, nothing happens to it because it is a highly processed food. However, if you were to leave something like rice, meats, those things will absolutely go bad in 1 to 2 days. So these are just different ways that foods are processed based on the shelf life, which brings me to my point of the whole concept of good and bad food. There are no such thing as good or bad foods because when you eat these foods, your body doesn't process it and be like, ugh, spits it out and is like, this was a bad one, or ingest it because it was considered a good one. Your body will literally digest and process everything that you give it. So if you have that mindset that certain foods are good or bad, I have a proposition for you to change your mindset around that. I want you to just think about foods in terms of what will get you to your goals quicker. So for example, if you are in a calorie deficit, your goal is to lose weight. Already, because the calories are a little bit kind of restricted, not crazy amount, but you can't always eat all your favorite fun foods. The priority is getting your main skincare. It's getting the protein, the fats, the carbs. In theory, if you were in a calorie deficit and all you ate were donuts and cookies, but it still fit in your calorie deficit for the day, you could, in hindsight, still lose weight, and that's great, but you will feel starving throughout the day. You will not feel your best. You will be very lethargic. So you can think of those foods like cookies and the processed, overly processed foods as foods as just they're not going to help you get to your goals. The priority that you would be doing if you're in a calorie deficit trying to lose fat is just making sure you're getting all the essential amounts of protein, carbs, and fats that you need. And then any calories left over, yes, please feel free to eat all the fun food. There are no good or bad foods. It's just foods that are going to get you to your goals quicker. Now, if you're somebody who's just chilling in maintenance, maybe you're in a surplus trying to build muscle, you have a more flexibility in your calories to be able to eat more of these other types of food. And I genuinely believe that all these types of foods have a time and place. I don't see myself eating hot dogs and burgers and pizzas every single day because that would be just exhausting to try and figure out that in my calories as I'm already on a calorie deficit. It's also something that would not make me feel great if I eat all these more higher processed foods. It takes a lot longer to digest. I also might find that I'm probably missing out on nutrients. So then the next day, I just don't feel as great. But if it's like a special occasion, it's a holiday, it's an event happening at your family, yes, of course, by all means, nothing is going to happen to you. For that one day that you decide to eat nothing but cookies and highly processed foods, you will be okay. Once you kind of repair your relationship with food and you start to look at food in this way, nothing feels as restricting as much. Your mindset around seeing foods around the house no longer will trigger you in such a way. But more importantly, you're going to understand that certain foods will help you get to your goals better than others might. Now, if we're at this point where you have been eating clean, you've been eating healthy, but you find that you binge eat after 2 to 3 days, there is a very, very good chance that you are under eating. Binge episodes happen because it is your body signaling to you, screaming to you that it is starving, it needs more calories. To show an example, when I used to believe in the whole clean eating, a lot of my meals kind of just look like shrimp, green beans, and a little bit of potatoes. On screen, it looks pretty, it looks organized, it's healthy, it's colorful, but in reality, it's about 400 calories for just the 30 grams of protein. Now imagine my other 2 meals for the day are around that same amount of calories. And let's add in maybe 300 calories for snacks throughout the day. I am still eating way below what a toddler eats. So it's no wonder that you're going to binge. But then there's also the other extreme where you think you're eating healthy, but you're either gaining more weight or your body isn't changing. And my favorite example that I love to bring up are acai bowls. For some reason, they have been labeled as a healthy, clean eating food because it's colorful, it has all these fruits, vegetables, all these things mixed into it, which don't get me wrong, I'm sure it is, but it is also calorie packed. When I first got into tracking calories, I was so shocked that a simple acai bowl from I don't even know where I was. It was for sure somewhere in the Bay Area. But I looked up the calories and tried to find an estimate. It was 800 calories with 13 grams of protein. It was just heavy in fats and carbohydrates. So this whole time that I thought I was eating something healthy, which maybe it is, especially if you're in a surplus and you need those extra calories, but it did not fit my goals of trying to lose weight at the time. Another example is I used to eat avocados by the whole. I was just convinced that because it's a healthy green fruit, therefore you can eat a lot of it and it would be okay. Now this was back when I first got into tracking. So my breakfast before going to work, it would just be 4 eggs that were scrambled into an omelet, a whole avocado, maybe some fruits and vegetables on the side. And then when I calculated my calories, I was eating an 1,000 calorie breakfast. Once again, that's not bad, especially if I was somebody who was in a surplus, but because my calorie goal at that time was 1,600 calories. That meant I ate 1,000 calories for breakfast, leaving me 600 for the rest of the day. Those are the 2 extreme scenarios. What I want to get into next is just the definition of a calorie. People will blame that calories are the reason for their weight gain, weight loss, or no changes in their body, which yes, to an extent, but it's not for the reason that you think it is. It doesn't just convert into fat. Calorie by definition is a unit of energy. So the less energy that you're giving to your body, the more your body is forced to work to try and maintain healthy equilibrium. And if you're under eating, that's when you might find that you're losing muscle mass. And that is because your body is now pulling energy from your muscle because it is not getting enough from the external. So then what ends up happening is that you're moody, you can't focus, you're thinking about food all the time, you were just constantly hungry. It's why you binge eat at night. So hopefully I've covered all the things that you might be experiencing, whether it's one or the other, or I hope it's not all three, but if it is all three, then I hope these solutions are what gets you a better answer about what to do. So by definition, what does getting lean mean? It's first building muscle and then exposing the muscle that you have by losing fat. A lot of people just skip the building phase and move straight to fat loss. And then that's why they don't look the certain way that they want to. They don't have muscles that show. They don't feel like they're filling out their clothes in a way that they had hoped. And I'm going to be so real with you. I'm one of those coaches that believe that you do not need to be in a calorie surplus to build muscle. I feel like being in maintenance is such an underrated place to be. And if you don't believe me, this is one of my most recent clients, Crystal. We started her in an 8-week fat loss phase when she joined one of my short group coaching programs. And then we continued her fat loss phase a little bit until we finally broke out of the plateau that she had been facing when it came to weight loss. Her goal was to get to a certain number, and she was really struggling how to get that on her own. Once we hit that milestone, then that's when I brought her back into maintenance. And as you can see, she has seen incredible results by just focusing on the basic things that you should be focusing in maintenance. And I will say right now that if you are somebody who is getting really serious about trying to build muscle, get into the lean side, all of that, you're gonna just need to throw out the scale. Because while in Crystal's case, it was different. If you are somebody who's already me where you have more muscle than fat, so therefore the scale is a little bit confused there, it's going to mess with your head every time you see it shoot up. If you see it come back down because you had a rough day, didn't eat as much food, and then once you start eating back in your maintenance, you're going to find that the scale shoots up. But it's like, you got to remember that food also has weight. So if you were eating food, you are now adding weight to your body, but it eventually passes. So a good way to think about maintenance is I want you to think about your body like a thermostat. When you're in a calorie deficit, it's almost like you're turning down the thermostat. You're trying to lower the temperature, conserve energy. But when you reach maintenance, it's like setting a temperature at the perfect temperature where your body doesn't really feel cold, but it's also not hot. It's like the ideal setting. It keeps everything functioning smoothly without you having to think or feel about much. And if you need proof that you can still build muscle in maintenance, this is my proof. Before I hired a coach, I was kind of just doing things on my own. I was doing my own programming. And there is still so much more muscle in this picture compared to the other, because it's proof that as long as you're training with enough intensity, you are giving your body enough recovery days, you can still build muscle while eating the calories it takes to just maintain your temperature at a good and functioning level. So how do you find your maintenance? Well, there are 2 different ways you could do it. And I go into a lot more detail in my video here, which you can absolutely watch. I'll even link it in the description. There are 2 ways. The first way is that you could just weigh yourself every single day for 2 weeks. This is before you eat food, after you use the bathroom. You're gonna eat what you already normally do. Don't make any changes just yet. You're gonna track that weight for 2 weeks. And you're going to take the average of the 7 days, and then you're going to try and compare week 1's average with week 2 average and look at the difference. Did it increase? Did it decrease? If it stayed the same, you are in maintenance. But if it increased, it means that you're probably eating a little bit too much calories. If it decreased, you're probably in a slight deficit. Now, how much of a gap could also determine how much more calories you're eating or how much you're under eating. And if you've been dieting for a while, there's really not going to be too much of a difference because your body will have already adjusted to those calories. But like I said, I go into way more detail into this if that's something you want to get more info. And then of course, the second way is you could just use a calorie calculator. This is just a generic one, TDEE. You would input all your information. My only suggestion is that when you do the activity level, it is not based on how many times you work out. It is based on your average daily step count. So if you're somebody who gets 7,000 to 8,000 steps per day, that's when you can do workout. Probably this one would be the best one. If you're somebody who is just crazy active, then you would just do the next one. If you are an athlete who works out 2 times a day, which I haven't worked with anybody who is at that level, then you would do the highest amount. And then from there, it would give you a rough estimate. This is when you could still, just to make sure that it's correct, you can make sure that you're eating all those calories for 2 weeks, track your weight every day, barely move, stay the same, no difference, then that was your true maintenance. And my very last topic that I want to get into, which you might be struggling with, so this is what we're just going to do that immediate fix, is maybe you just need to take out cardio. Cardio is a common strategy that would help aid in your fat loss. But I feel like sometimes people just take it to a whole different level and they incorporate it immediately. When you get into a deficit, it's supposed to be slow and it's supposed to slowly build. It shouldn't be like you just minus 500 calories and you do an hour or 30 minutes of cardio the next day. Because if that was something you were already not doing from the start and then you try to just jump to that immediately, that's when you're going to feel burnt out. You're probably going to plateau within 4 weeks. And I mean, unless you're competing in bodybuilding or you have a coach that's monitoring all this progress, I would just cut out cardio completely. And if you're wondering about what I mean by slow, sustainable, and how to go about it with your calories, I swear this video will go into so much more detail. Even my coach right now, it took about 6 weeks for her to actually incorporate cardio. And even then, it was just 10 minutes of cardio. And then it got increased to 15. And then recently, when I really plateaued in my weight again, we've increased it to 20 while also cutting another 100 calories. I have been at it for almost 8 weeks and I'm not even near a 500 calorie deficit yet. I am still at 300 calories. That is what I mean by taking it slow and not trying to just throw everything right away. Your focus should just be your activity level and working to increase that. And what I mean by that is just getting in more steps, making sure that you're walking every day, making sure that you're getting minimum 7,000, 8,000. Because the truth is the average American probably gets about 4,000 to 5,000 steps every day. So the goal is just to increase it even just by a little bit. Because if you haven't figured out by now, when you do a lot of cardio, it increases your hunger, your cravings shoot up, and it is really hard to maintain a calorie deficit if your body is just screaming for more food. It is normal to be a little bit hungry in a calorie deficit, but it should not be to the point where you're like, I need food, I am starving, cannot sleep. It's affecting your mood, it's affecting your life. That's when a big tweak needs to happen. Think about doing way too much cardio like a fire. When you go straight to a 500 calorie deficit, you add in all this cardio, it's like you took this giant log and you threw it straight into the fire. You're going to create this huge flame. It's going to be a massive amount of energy expenditure. Now this fire has gone crazy and it's so much more harder to maintain your calorie deficit because you have all these things that are now happening. The fire's too big, too much energy expenditure, you're starving, you're hungry, you're moody, and that's what ends up making fat loss so much harder. I explain in this video how you can make your fat loss a lot slower, but also sustainable so you don't give up after 2 weeks. You don't feel burnt out. It also helps prevent you from plateauing after just 2 or 3 weeks. It's something that I work with my clients all the time. It's something that I'm incorporating in myself because it's about finding the sweet spot between strength training and your life, balancing everything else that's happening to avoid the cravings and all the things that make fat loss hard. So I don't know if I'm going to have this released to the public yet by the time you see this, but I am launching a brand new program. This is specifically for the women who find that they're constantly restarting their fitness journey, constantly falling off track. They know what they need to be doing, but for some reason, for the life of them, they just can't stay on track. This program is literally just about accountability, structure, things that I would ensure for you to keep going. Mainly because for every time that you are able to complete a week with the things you're supposed to do, there are weekly unlockables that you get. So that way it keeps you excited and wondering what the next unlockable is going to be, because let's be real, curiosity will trump over motivation because you'll find that you do all the things you got to do the first week. Something great will happen, great reward that'll make you just think, I can keep doing this because I want to see that next little unlockable. Specifically for the women who have done the 12-week plan, you've seen the results, but you know you could do better. And whenever motivation fades, life gets crazy, you're back to square one. And I guarantee this is not just like another 12-week shred program. It's not about getting a bikini body because I genuinely believe you already have a bikini body. It's just a mindset shift you got to make. It's definitely not a boot camp that you just get a little downloadable PDF and you're on your way, but it's definitely a program that you don't just start. It's a program that you finish. So enrollment is going to open up soon. If you want to stay on top of it, if you want to keep updated with that, follow my Instagram, which will also be linked below. Make sure you're following that account so you can stay up to date. And my hope is that you'll be able to finish it because there are just so many tiny little rewards that you get for all the hard work that you put in. But that is it for what I had for this video. As always, if you found it helpful, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like, let me know that you love this video so that way I can continue making more just like this.